Hi folks, welcome to episode 15 of I Don't Want to Hold Your Hand, the Beatles Quarantine catalog, where I am attempting to play 248 Beatles songs in chronological order while we are all stuck inside. Before we get into today's gigantic song, I am on all of the different things, YouTube, Instagram, and Venmo, if you would like to subscribe, follow, or support the series. Last episode, the Beatles recorded their first single, the Love Me Do, P.S. I Love You single, and they did so with session drummer Andy White on the drums. And since then, the single has broken into the top 20, which is not bad. Today, they are back in the studio, this time, no Andy White. That's right, it took many years and many drummers, but it is finally Ringo's gig from here on out, sort of. So the Beatles are back at EMI Studios to record their next single, and the first song that they record this day for the A side of their single is what is, in my opinion, the first glimmer of genius in the Beatles catalog. Song number 15 of 248, Please Please Me. Please Please Me is credited, like most Beatles songs, to Lennon and McCartney, but this is solely a John Lennon composition, which is huge because if you've been paying attention, up to this point, we've really only had one major John Lennon song, and that is Hello Little Girl, back on the Fourthland Road tapes, and then again on the Decca record audition. Everything else has been either a Paul and John collaboration or a Paul song. And so for John's second major recording to be Please Please Me is unbelievable. Please Please Me was inspired by three artists, Bing Crosby, Roy Orbison, and the Everly Brothers. Let's talk about why. John first got the idea for at least the title of Please Please Me from Bing Crosby's 1932 song, Please, which the opening line is, "Please lend your ears to my pleas," which the double meaning of the word please definitely excited him. Back in September, right after the Beatles got signed with EMI, they came in to record their first single. They recorded Love Me Do, they recorded How Do You Do It, that cheesy song that George Martin offered to them that they turned down. But they also recorded their first take of Please Please Me. But back then, it was very slow. There wasn't any harmony to it. It was modeled after Roy Orbison, in particular his song Only the Lonely. So the Beatles go home for a week and they work on Please Please Me, and they come up with a faster tempo as requested by George Martin. And they also add some harmonies, and this is where the Everly Brothers come in. The Everly Brothers have a song called Kathy's Clown that came out in 1960. Wonderful song, look it up, it's great. But in it is a very cool harmony. It's on the opening line and it's on every verse of a song. And the line involves the melody sort of descending and the harmony staying on one pitch. It's a very cool little trick that the Everly Brothers did. And so the melody goes, "Don't want your love anymore." And the harmony is, "Don't want your love anymore." And through the magic of editing, I will sing them together right now. Don't want your love anymore. Amazing, right? What a song, what a harmony. The Everly Brothers were geniuses. Go listen to everything they've ever written. So the Beatles know this song, Paul knows this song, and he decides to take that trick from Kathy's Clown and put it into Please Please Me. That's where we get John singing, "Last night I said these words to my girl," and Paul singing, "Last night I said these words to my girl." And together they make that Kathy's Clown sound that is one of the great harmonies in the entire Beatles catalog. So they play the song with Andy White on the drums. It's pretty good. It's just not quite there yet. So George decides to put it off yet another day to the next session. So now today, November 26, 1962, the Beatles come back to the studio, and I don't know if it's because they were riding the high of their first single breaking the top 20, or if it's just by the fact that Ringo's on the drums. It takes 18 takes. And they nail it, and it sounds great. It sounds so good that George Martin presses the little intercom button and says, Gentlemen, you've just made your first #1 record. Please Please Me was released on January 11th, 1963, where it reached #2. Not quite #1. #1 was held by Jerry and the Pacemakers, whose new hit song was How Do You Do It? The very song that the Beatles turned down in favor of Love Me Do. Probably a disappointment at the time, but a good move in the long run. Please Please Me was also released in the US. It was their first single in the United States, and it did not do very well. And to add insult to injury, the first pressings of the single were released by the Beatles. So it doesn't do too well in the United States, but in the UK, it's a huge hit. It's #2. It's #1 on a lot of charts. It's enough to get them their first TV appearance on a show called Thank Your Lucky Stars, where they play Please Please Me. But most importantly, it's enough to get them back in the studio in a few weeks to record an entire album that will be named after this single. Things to listen for in this song. Last episode, we talked about how Paul just started doing some more interesting rhymes with I'll be coming home again to you, love, until the day I do love, a creative rhyme where it's not the last word that rhymes. And John is already doing it in this song, which it comes out with last night I said these words to my girl, you know you never even try, girl. And you don't need me to show the way, love. Why do I always have to say love? That's even more genius, by the way. And also, not to mention, I do all the pleasing with you. It's so hard to reason with you. Very, very clever. I could never write that in a million years. There's a couple of firsts in this song, and there's going to be firsts in every song coming up because the Beatles are slowly forming their sound as we go through. But the things that appear in Please Please Me for the first time, we get falsetto, a Beatles-y falsetto on Please Me, that will make the crowds go crazy. But also we get our first Come On and Oh Yeah in this song, which, as we know, that will appear a lot coming up. Last thing to listen for, you can't only listen for it on this version, we'll have to listen to the original, but the drumming. Ringo's drumming is killer on this track. Ringo's sort of been fighting George Martin, trying to prove that he is good enough to be in a recording studio. You don't need to hire a session drummer for this group. And I think with this track, he settles that debate for good. So please sit back and enjoy the first genius song by the Beatles. Beatles song number 15, Please Please Me.